Hi, I'm Jenna Sloan, and I'm going to be talking about gender inequality in education. Gender inequality in education can lead to a detrimental society. In females particularly, this will lead to poor health. There will be less females in the formal labor market, which would lead to females earning lower incomes. Females tend to birth more children when there's gender inequality in education. They get married at earlier ages. In some countries, through my research, I found that child brides are more prevalent in countries where there's gender inequality in education. And there's poor healthcare and education for not only the females, but also for their children. So the data set that I utilized for this topic was provided by UNESCO. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, is an agency of the United Nations that seeks to build peace through international cooperation in education, the sciences, and culture. One of their missions is to ensure that every child and citizen has equal access to quality education. Their data is sourced through governmental submission, so the data is collected information which encompasses data on educational programs, access, participation, progression, completion, literacy, educational attainment, human and financial resources. This information was provided directly from the UNESCO company. So in this data set, I chose to focus on a sample of African countries that are classified as low income according to the World Bank. The countries that I looked at are Burkina Faso, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Gambia, Rwanda, and South Sudan. Using the dataset from UNESCO, I conducted a design of experiments using the independent variable of GNI per capita, which is gross national income per capita, and the dependent variable of number of females out of primary school. Using Tableau, I created the graph on the right that demonstrates the comparison of the GNI, gross national income, and the number of children out of primary school. The orange bars represent the GNI, and the blue dots represent the number of children, female children, out of school. You'll see that as the trend that is shown is as GNI increases, the number of females out of school, the children out of primary school, decreases. As you can see in the two extremes on this chart, the Democratic Republic of Congo has a GNI per capita of roughly 800 and an extremely high number of girls out of school at about 2.4 million. Compare that to Gambia on the way on the right. The GNI per capita is at 2,300, while they only have 32,000 girls out of school. While looking at each of these countries, you can see that the trend is moving downwards. Another unique situation to point out is Rwanda. So they're at the midpoint of GNIs that I looked at, but they have one of the lower numbers of female girls out of school. The graph indicates a causal relationship between GNI and the number of female children out of primary school. However, it would be best to complete another analysis using a broader sample of countries in order to confirm this relationship. So, in order to relieve the financial burden of education costs for the individual families, I'm advocating for UNESCO to provide an educational policy reform plan and support donor mobilization in order to increase funding for these low-income countries in Africa. The individuals in these low-income countries do not have the additional income to spend on sending and keeping their children in school. This can be seen that the lower the GNI, the gross national income per capita, the less amount of female children that were in school. There's a direct correlation between income and the amount of girls in school. Direct and indirect school costs are prohibitive for poor families. So, going back to the original chart that I showed, here's the impact of gender equality in education. The females are healthier, they participate more in the formal labor market, they earn higher incomes, they have fewer children, they marry at a later age, and they enable better healthcare and education for their children. With UNESCO policy support and donor mobilization, we can increase the quality of life for females and support the society. All of these factors combined can help lift households, communities, and nations out of poverty. So thank you for listening to me, and here are my resources.